Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another brand new episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. I am Matthew King. Got Luke Kilgore here to start things off. Jacob will be on a little bit later for some fun baseball and football talk. But we're going to start things off right at the NBA playoffs, the kind of focus of the professional sports world right now. And Luke, the conference semifinals officially done. We know who's playing in the conference finals. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals going on right now. Let's go ahead and start, though, out west. I mean, we are going to
go easy on me first. You're going to go easy on me first.
I'm going easy on myself first. That's how we're starting this. Let's start with, I think, what was the biggest stunner of the conference semifinals. The Mavericks taking out the Phoenix Suns in 7. And that game 7, it was never really competitive. I mean, Dallas just rolled them, and I don't think anyone expected Phoenix to go out that way. But I thought a lot of people thought that they'd actually put up more of a fight than they did in Game 7. They just got steamrolled.
Yeah, they got murked. They got murked, for lack of a better term. Game 6 too, they looked bad, but Chris Paul and Devin Booker were the two guys that they really just hung their hats on. And I mean, of course, they've been leading them all season, right? But they just could not buy a bucket. Of course, you heard, Devin Booker obviously got hurt last series, right? So everyone's going to talk about that. Everyone's going to talk about the excuse factor. And then we saw, as Chris Paul was walking off the floor, limping badly, apparently he had a quad injury, which, man, his legs always seem to betray him in the playoffs. Of course, since he's had this history of faltering in the playoffs, everyone, of course, is going to call him a faker, whatever. A lot of the Phoenix Suns said they were dealing with injuries. The biggest thing to me, buddy, and this was kind of got swept under the rug for some, but DeAndre Ayton, I believe, played 17 minutes, if that. And when asked about why he didn't play the whole fourth quarter. And I mean, DeAndre Ayton at times, especially when those two can't get going, has been a guy that you can throw it to and get some buckets. And I mean, that's all they needed. They needed something to get them going. I mean, obviously their first half score was abysmal, but get DeAndre Ayton going, and all Monty Williams could say was the matter was internal. So, I mean, if I'm a betting man, which, boy, I shouldn't be, depending on, looking at how I've guessed these playoffs, I'd say DeAndre Ayton's gone. I would say that he's going somewhere where he can get the absolute most money. And man, I could tell you like 30 different NBA teams that would love to have him.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the interesting thing is, I mean, they were so close to a championship. I mean, if you want the ring, you're in the right spot. They aren't far off. A lot of people might say that they are still missing quite a bit, obviously, after kind of floundering here. But I mean, I think they've got the talent up and down that roster. I think, they obviously weren't 100%. I don't think Devin Booker was ever 100% after that injury in the first round against the Pelicans. He just never looked the same. But on the other side of things, the Dallas Mavericks, I mean, I talked about it when we did our predictions before the playoffs even started, that I was skeptical. Right. I didn't buy him because they've never done anything in the playoffs. Luka Doncic is just on another level right now. I mean, he's taken over the world. He did it in the Olympics last summer, and now he's doing it in the NBA playoffs. And every time I think, man, he just needs help. He can't keep doing this on his own. Someone steps up just enough in this run to help him out. I mean, whether it's Jalen Brunson stepping up for him, it's just a new guy every single night. And I think this Mavericks team is clicking at the right time.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, the Suns let Spencer Dinwiddie drop 30 in Game 7. And Dinwiddie went off 5 for 7 from 3, 11 for 15 from the field. Like he was unstoppable. You're right. They are clicking at the right time. They're still playing fantastic defense. And they don't always have the same guys stepping up. It's basically just Luka Doncic, and then Jalen Brunson's dropping anywhere from 18 to 25 points. And then, the fill-ins around there are doing something. Spencer Dinwiddie's usually like in the 10s to teens range, but man, he balled out for him. And the Suns just looked deflated. Yes, they were hurt. They just looked so deflated from the get-go, and just kind of rolled over in Game 7. And that's Luka Doncic. I don't know if he's going out there and trying to become the meme of the NBA. But he provides, not only does he provide, video clips and highlights, every single playoffs he's been involved in, he has left a stamp and had at least 2 just ridiculous highlights. But he was all over Twitter. He was all over the socials with him smiling up at Devin Booker, and just becoming an absolute troll of a meme. So more power to him. He's an absolute killer. And he was, every bucket, I don't know if you saw that, almost every bucket, he was laughing and shaking his head. He was having, Luka Doncic that's having fun out there and getting buckets, that's the scariest Luka Doncic you could possibly see. So the Mavs against Golden State, wow. That's obviously tonight. Actually.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Oh, yeah, my bad. That is tomorrow. At 6 p.m. But that's, man, if the Mavs are playing like they played in this Sun series against the Warriors, boy, that one might go 7-2. The Mavs just on defensively, even when they're not scoring well, are on another level. They're just playing really, really sound defense. And have you seen this too, man? Have you seen Jason Kidd out there on the sideline yelling on every possession? He's almost like he's in it playing defense himself, and he's communicating with all their guys on where to switch or don't get, stay home, whatever. And so they're switching off of Devin Booker, and then they finally get it to like Campaign or whoever, who takes a bad shot and misses. So this team is just clicking at the right moment. They've got it all going. I think you do have to give a lot of credit to Jason Kidd, especially what he was replacing Carlisle, if I'm not mistaken. That is a huge, huge task. He was a legendary coach for the Mavs for a long time, and Jason Kidd has been waiting for, to kind of find his mark on a team. He's had a couple good opportunities, but I think when you got a guy like Luka Doncic who can just lead the team and take over in any single game, you've got a great chance. But Jason Kidd's got this team on another level right now, and they're overachieving more than they have all season.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Jason Kidd, because I think is the kind of spark plug for them. Exactly what you said. Every possession he is getting into, it's like he's on the court. It's unbelievable. It's special to have a coach with that much passion. And I think that can be the X factor. Let's hop on over to the other series. Golden State, they got a pretty good head coach of their own in Kerr. In that series, we all knew the Warriors had it wrapped up pretty much once the Grizzlies lost at Ja Morant. It was really impressive that the Grizzlies did get another game. That stunned me. I know I was with you when we saw that score. Unbelievable. But the Grizzlies without Ja Morant, they just didn't have the star power. They didn't have the offensive firepower. For the Warriors, they can go so many different ways, especially if Andrew Wiggins is playing well. There's 4 guys on that team who can score at will. It is going to be a tough matchup for the Mavericks to kind of defend across the board the Warriors.
Game 6 Clay is undefeated. I just want to put that out there as well. He is in every Game 6 he's ever played in. He is ridiculous.
Go Cougs.
But go Cougs, yes sir. But yeah, the Warriors, man, they've got so much star power in that front line that, if 1 or 2 go off, it's going to be a tough night regardless. And you're right, even if Andrew Wiggins is going off, that's going to be a tough night, because one of the other Splash Bros, even the Splash nephew, might be getting in on it. So Memphis getting a couple games out of this, it was very surprising. And the fact that guys like Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. could lead the way without Ja Morant, that really spoke volumes for me. It was very similar to when the Mavs didn't have Luka and they were out there balling. Granted, that Jalen Brunson really stepped up as the star there, but they just played some team basketball and totally shifted things up and said, hey, we are still a very talented team without our star player. It's kind of like reminds me of the Brooklyn Nets right before, and of course this brings in Dinwiddie, right? But right before they got the blockbuster trades for KD and Kyrie, and they had like Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, like those guys were just a great team. And then you added stars to it, and then of course people got traded off. But yeah, they were just a great team that knew how to play and surprise some people in the playoffs just because of their team play. So I loved what I saw from Memphis. They put up a good fight, but they just, I mean, what do you expect? We all called this, and it's just difficult to think that the Grizzlies are going to get anywhere without their guy.
And with the Grizzlies, I think that them taking that extra game from the Warriors shows how this roster kind of can get slept on a little bit, if you will. Dylan Brooks, I thought he was fantastic. I think Desmond Bane was the kind of standout player for the Grizzlies, in my opinion, in my view. He kind of stepped out of his shell in those games. I think the Grizzlies are closer than a lot of people think. I do think they just need a real consistent score to go alongside John Morant, or maybe a dominant defensive piece. They just need that kind of backup to John Morant just in case something does happen, or if Morant has a bad day, which he doesn't have many of. But right. I think they're pretty close to being a legit contender in the Western Conference. And I mean, that Western Conference Finals matchup, Golden State and Dallas, I don't think a lot of people saw either of these teams in the Western Conference Finals before the season started.
I saw Golden State there. I do want to say, before the season started. Okay. Never mind.
I can't jump in yet.
Sorry.
Before the season started, I mean, we all knew they were capable, but I mean, Steph coming back, no one knew when Clay was exactly going to come back. He's come back and he's just looked really good. And Jordan Poole, of course, can't say enough good things about him. I do want to mention, though, once again, the representative from they're the only team with a chance to win the NBA Finals from the Western Conference is a team from California or Texas. The last time there was a Western Conference team that won the NBA Finals that wasn't from one of those states, our Seattle Sonics back in 1979. Unbelievable.
Wow. Where'd you find that stat? That's crazy.
I believe George Karl tweeted it. Saw that on Twitter.
Of course he did. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, bring back our Sonics, baby. That's all I got to say there.
Absolutely.
What a crazy stat.
But that series is just unbelievable. The Mavericks and Warriors. If Luka can just get a little bit of help, I mean, I can't bet against the Mavericks right now. I don't feel comfortable betting on either team in that series without their plan right now. The Warriors do need to show up, though. Those losses to Memphis, you can't play that lackadaisical against a team like Dallas and expect to hang around in that series. If they come out flat and Dallas jumps on them, you're going to be in some deep, deep trouble early in that series. Those first two games are very pivotal, I think, for Golden State.
Yeah, they're very vital. You're right. The Warriors have to make a statement early on. They have to get one up over Luka because he's a killer, man. And I know I'm going to bring out the cliche, but when a shark smells blood, and Luka's able to pour it on early, he's going to feel confident no matter who's guarding him the rest of the series, the rest of the way. So, especially with how Dallas has played defensively, Warriors are going to have to work hard. They're going to have to work hard to get good shots. Draymond Green's going to be a huge factor with how he can get guys open, how he's going to play defense against some of those guys. I have no doubt that we're going to see some Luka highlights where he might make some of your favorite players look silly. Sorry, folks. But that's what he's been doing. So he's gonna drop Steph or Clay or even Draymond. Something's going to happen. I guarantee that. But it's gonna take a very combined effort from Golden State because Dallas, I mean, they've gone under the radar this whole time, just like they have, for the last few years now, basically ever since Luka's been on that team. So it feels like they shouldn't be ready, right? But they are. So. Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate them at all if I'm GSW. And you're right. You're going to need that first one or two games for sure. You're going to need to take game one because if Luka gets game one, that changes. It's kind of like right when the Cavs lost game one. I hate to bring this up on the J.R. Smith mistake in the finals. That changed the whole complexion of that series. Everyone knew, yeah, okay, well, this is over. Their souls were crushed. So. If Luka feels like he can get that one over and surprise them, especially that first game is going to be in Golden State. So if he's able to upset them in Golden State, look out because this series is going to be a wild, wild ride.
Yeah, the Bay Area going to be rocking. I'm putting you on the spot. Who you got in that series?
I feel like an idiot even picking anymore, but I do pick Golden State, and I pick them in 7. I know that sounds wild too, but I pick them in 7. I think that's where we're going to go.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Put all your money on the Dallas Mavericks. If you just heard that,
yeah, with my luck, yeah, absolutely.
I also think the Warriors take it. I think the experience is going to kind of pay off with Steph and Clay. I think they get it done in 6, though. I just think they're going to really be dialed in. They want to get back to the NBA Finals. It's been a little bit of a dry spell for a team that really has been the face of the NBA for a long, long time. All right, let's hop on over to the Eastern Conference. Let's again ease into it. Let's start with the Heat and 76ers.
Okay.
A team that you are just going in on, the Miami Heat. Pull it off. They're still got hope. They're playing game 1 against Boston Celtics right now. I mean, the 76ers, you and I talked about it. You and I were together and we talked about James Harden just didn't look the same. He wasn't the same James Harden that we've seen win MVPs, win scoring titles. He was hesitant constantly all season long, really. I mean, he had spurts where he'd shoot the ball. It just in the playoffs, it even dropped off more. It was baffling, really. This is a whole new James Harden. We haven't even seen since I mean, he wasn't even this hesitant in OKC.
Well, in OKC, he was used to the off ball, right? And I mean, obviously, when he was coming off the bench and leading that second rotation in, he had a lot of ISO, but play styles have definitely, James Harden's evolution has been very interesting to watch, but you're right, especially in the playoffs. I mean, even when he was playing MVP caliber basketball, even in the playoffs, there's been certain times where he has just come up short. Not just certain times, very crucial times. And I'm sorry, I don't care if you are the playmaker of the team now, because that is very much the role that he has really adopted. He wants to be the point guard. He wants to make plays for other people, which is not a bad thing by any means, but that's not why they gave up all the chips for you, buddy. That's if they wanted that, guess who they would have been a lot nicer to and held on to? His name is Ben Simmons. So if that's all that they wanted, then that you would not be there. There you are there because there's times where you need to take over the basketball game, and there is no excuse in an elimination game. There is no excuse for James Harden to be taking 9 shots. I'm not going to be mad at him if he takes 40 and makes 3. Okay. But him taking 9 shots, that's inexcusable. So, I mean, I don't know what it is, man. I honestly don't know what it is for James, but you're right. He's been hesitant a lot this season, but when he hasn't been, when he's just been firing, he's played well. So he's still got that in him. Yeah, no, he's not dropping almost 40 a night. He's not getting, 40-point triple doubles left and right, but they don't need that. They don't need that from him. They need maybe a 30-point performance. They need him to step up in those crucial moments, especially when your guy Joel Embiid, it's well documented. I mean, he's dealing with the orbital bone fracture. He's been getting knocked around in the playoffs. He did not have a great game. He, though, still, even though he was dragging and he was, like 50% condition, right? He looked rough out there in that final game 6. And in that condition, he still took, I believe, 24 shots, So, James, you got to do something there, buddy. And he says for sure he's signed back on for next year. Joel Embiid, you open this up by saying that he's not the same Houston Rockets James Harden. And Joel Embiid said that in an interview too. And of course, that's going to get soundbited and taken out of context. And everyone's going to think that, oh, look, Joel Embiid is steamrolling another player, throwing another one of his teammates under the bus like he did with Ben Simmons. But that's just accountability, right? That's what everyone else is thinking. So why is it so bad that the star player is saying that? I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's the elephant in the room. I know other people are questioning Doc Rivers, whether he's going to stay or not. He got really, really upset, or at least antsy, I suppose, with that. So he got very protective of his legacy, but I don't think that they're going to can Doc Rivers. I don't, but man, I don't know what you do to drill it into James Harden that you got to take 15 to 20 shots at least in that situation in game 6.
Yeah, James Harden's got to be dropping about 25 a night. I mean, with Joel Embiid also on that team, that's what you just need to do. You need to find a way to score 25 points a night, and you're going to be in good shape. That is James Harden's game. He's a scorer. That's what he's known for. With Joel Embiid,
he's one of the greatest scorers of all time.
Absolutely.
You know,
with Joel Embiid, those comments about James Harden, it's interesting because different superstars attack those things different ways. I mean, you never hear Giannis say something like that about a team. But there's lots of other guys you would hear say that. I mean, LeBron, I don't think would hesitate to say, hey, this isn't the same guy we wanted from when, let's just put out Russell Westbrook for just an example. I'm surprised LeBron never really threw him that far under the bus. But just superstars attack that a different way. But I love what you said. It's their right. When you're the face of the team, you're going to be able to call guys out. You're going to be able to say, hey, I need your best. You're not giving it to me. We need to figure something out. I think that's more what Joel Embiid was doing. And with the Miami Heat, I do want to give them credit. Their defense is just so good. Across the board, you're not going to find easy points against them. It is going to be a dogfight for Boston to try and find a way to score on them. The one spot the Heat do scare me, though, is allowing threes can end up being their downfall. I think when you get inside the paint, they're going to out-physical Boston because, Milwaukee out-physical Boston. It's going to come down to three-point shooting for the Celtics. The Heat, they're going to need to score a little bit better than they did in that series with Philly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And man, I just want to say this. I have been, calling the Heat frauds, essentially, implying that, at least saying that they're just not for real. They're not real contenders. But I will say, hey, they've got guys 1 through 10 that can really put in work. Max Strus is just, come on, so strong lately. You got guys like Tyler Hero, who's always been there as well. Bam Adebayo's playing good minutes. PJ Tucker, you literally stash him on your team for the playoffs. That's what you do. Mm-hmm. And then Jimmy Butler, when it comes time for closeout games, when it comes time to get serious, he is the guy. And he takes that role very seriously. He didn't want to take it to a game 7. He's a great leader. He really gets his team fired up. And this Miami Heat team, they're super well-rounded. And that's why I got to say, I picked the Celtics to win in 6 games.
Okay. You better.
That was hilarious. I just wanted to segue.
Take care of business, but congrats to Jimmy Butler. He did get a little bit of revenge on the Sixers. He's getting back to an Eastern Conference Finals. Let's go ahead and
hold on. I do want to say, it is sad to say though, for Joel Embiid, he literally is getting asked interview questions like that. He wishes that they would have shipped Simmons, in hindsight, that they would have shipped Simmons rather than Jimmy Butler, because they got rid of Jimmy and got Tobias Harrison because Jimmy was, too ball dominant. And it's just like, wow, can you imagine this team right now with, I don't know if James Harden would necessarily be there, right? But Jimmy Butler, I guess, screw it, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid.
That's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll let you move on. But yeah, that just was kind of sad for me, is Joel never wanted to see him leave, and he's been the process all along. So
trust the process is what they've been saying. They're going to need to figure out maybe a new process in Philly. Let's hop on to the final series. My Milwaukee Bucks falling short in 7 against the Boston Celtics. I told you I turned off the game with about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I still don't know the final score. I know the Bucks lost. They weren't coming back. The Milwaukee team, they couldn't shoot the ball in game 7. That was going to be an issue. Whether the Celtics were shooting mediocre or not, the Bucks not knocking down shots was a big problem. Chris Middleton being out, this team's not even close to the same without Middleton. But the one thing about the Bucks last year is they just seem to have that spark, like, yeah, we got to turn it on now. It's time to go. It's go time. You saw it against the Nets in that game 7 last year. They flipped the switch when they were struggling against the Hawks. They flipped the switch after dropping 2-0 to the Suns. They flipped the switch. Never happened this postseason. They beat up on the Bulls, but it's just felt like they wanted to just coast. They thought they were just going to coast through Boston, take care of business, and get on to the Eastern Conference Finals. It wasn't there, that dog in them. And I think that was the loss of PJ Tucker. Having him there, I think he really fired up this team. Not having him there, they were just missing that. Grayson Allen, he doesn't have that. Bobby Portis, he's good, but he really struggled in this series with Boston. He was not productive like they need him to be. Brook Lopez showed up the last 2 games. He was probably next to Giannis, their best player in those final 2 games and the chance to close it out. Drew Holiday was good. Giannis is going to be Giannis. But, man, it just felt like the Bucks were constantly flat in that entire series.
You're right. But I mean, one thing you said, brilliant, is PJ Tucker. And it's funny, not a lot of people said this, but once he went from the Bucks to the Heat, everyone was like, oh boy, the Heat finally had that X factor. And it sounds silly, right? You have an old vet that, he can guard through, veteran tactics and just hard work. But he's undersized. He takes corner threes almost exclusively, but yet he's still one of the most efficient 3-point shooters in the league, and he just gets it done. You're right; they are missing PJ Tucker to make those big shots, to make some tough shots down the stretch. But you know what? You can't blame Giannis. Everyone that looked flat, Giannis, he's still in game. By the way, in Game 6. The final was 109-81, so you're fine. You're right to have not watched that. But Giannis, I mean, 25, 20 boards, 9 assists, 2 steals, a block in Game 6. You can't fault him, but here's the thing too. When you go 4 for 33 from beyond the arc, when your guy is getting all the attention in the paint, Giannis I'm talking about, something's got to give. I mean, and so Giannis knows how to turn it on, but without Chris Middleton there, without Mr. Reliable for him to kick out to and hit some wide open threes. I mean, Drew Holiday can only come up clutch for you so many times, and he just didn't. He just did not come up clutch for him like they have expected him to. And Grayson Allen, who's usually been a really good 3-point shooter, he also, didn't come up clutch either. They've got guys that they've usually been able to rely on, like you said, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, and Lopez didn't do too bad, but they just without Chris Middleton, that just leaves such a big hole for them, and they don't have a guy like PJ Tucker. They don't have a vet who knows how to win titles. There, I said it. PJ Tucker knows how to play in the playoffs and win titles and make big shots. So that was a big loss for them, and this team's just not as good, and we found that out in the long run. It's just not as good as a world title team that we saw last year.
Yeah, and Giannis missed some easy shots in that Game 7, but I mean, even if he hits those, that's not going to change anything because Boston, Game 1, remember, they came out with the same defensive strategy. Giannis was going to drive to the paint. They collapsed on him. They were sending everyone. It was like that scene in King Kong where King Kong's climbing up the Empire State Building and just the entire military is attacking him. That was Giannis in Game 1, but he was kicking it out and guys were knocking down shots. Boston completely aborted that strategy in Games 2 through 6. They started defending the outside shots. They started defending the threes, the deep twos. Giannis then dominated down low. He just pounded his way in, but still you got to have those other guys knocking down shots to win games. That's why the Celtics were able to get it to Game 7. And once again, the Bucks did not knock down shots. The Celtics, they went back to that strategy. They just collapsed on Giannis when he got in the paint. Nobody else could do anything. I do give a lot of credit to the Celtics. They shot the ball lights out in this series. When they were on, they were on. I mean, they won over a lot of fans. I've liked them since about 2019. I just thought this team was very close to taking over the Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum is that dude. Jaylen Brown, I thought, was the most impressive player for the Celtics up and down throughout this series. He was phenomenal. Al Horford, of course, is going to do his thing. I mean, just so many different guys who can do so many different things. Everyone knows their job with the Celtics, and everyone does it to almost perfection. And when Peyton Pritchard's coming off the bench knocking down shots, it's going to be a long, long night.
Yes, it is. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the Celtics know how to play very well as a team. It just depends on if the shots are falling or not. Jaylen Brown, I think you're right. I think he has been the most impressive in the playoffs. And maybe at times this season, I mean, Jason Tatum is the guy and excuse me, makes a lot of plays. But I don't know, Jaylen Brown, he's just been so impressive. And Al Horford's another guy like PJ Tucker. He's obviously not knocking down big shots, but the productivity that PJ Tucker has on the offensive end, that's exactly what Al Horford does on the defensive end. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. He's shut down some of the biggest stars in the league. So, and then you got a guy like Grant Williams. I mean, what do you do about that? What do you do about Grant Williams shooting 7 for 18 from 3? Dropping 27 points. Who?
Grant Williams is going to be the next PJ Tucker.
Oh, wow.
Hot take.
Wow.
Hot take.
That's a wild take, buddy. I'll give it to you though. But here's the thing. How many teams, tell me this, how many teams are going to let Grant Williams, when they've got guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and even like Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, whatever, how many teams are going to let Grant Williams shoot the most shots? How many teams are going to let Grant Williams fire up
None.
22 attempts?
Especially with how he started his career. He could not hit threes to save his life to start his career. All of a sudden, this guy's knocking it down. It's unbelievable what he's done.
It's just, I don't think even like common sense for a lot of coaches would just tell you, okay, our stars are going to continue to get the most field goal attempts. But they just rode the hot hand. Grant Williams was like, okay, yep, I'll knock down a 3. How about another? Okay, boys, listen. Grant Williams, he's shooting the ball now until further notice. So there's not a lot of teams that are going to say that are going to make that decision and kind of defer to him, especially in a closeout game. That's just such a wild decision, and it paid off for him.
Celtics headed to the Eastern Conference Finals. My Bucks going to have to reset. It'll be interesting to see what Milwaukee does with like guys like Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis this offseason. It's going to be fascinating to see how this roster looks in the 2022-2023 season. So you said you already gave your Eastern Conference Finals prediction. You said the Celtics over the Heat.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a troll pick. I'm not going to lie. But
so you're taking the Heat.
No, sir. I think I still got to commit. You know, I've been wrong for so long here in the playoffs. So I've got to just commit to hating on the Heat the rest of the way. I think the Celtics going to do it. But I will say the Heat are a lot more consistent. So I could easily be wrong. Easily.
Yeah. The Celtics, I mean, if they're knocking down, I talked about it with the Heat. That's the way you beat them is by knocking down threes. The Celtics team seems like they could be Miami's kryptonite. I like the Celtics to get it done in 7. I think that is going to be a really fun series. I think both these series are going to be incredible, which, I mean, I love how we're going to get a fresh finals matchup. Of course, we've seen Golden State get there, but this is a new Golden State squad, new stars, putting their stamp on a championship run rather than just Steph and Clay. And of course, when they had KD and Draymond, they have new guys stepping up, and it'd be awesome to see Luka get into the finals. It'd be unbelievable to see what he could do. The Heat, we saw them there a couple years ago in the bubble. This is totally different now that they can get the crowd in there. When the series goes to South Beach in Boston, I mean, playoff basketball in Boston, there is nothing like that. So many intriguing matchups. I can't wait to see how things play out. Luke, thank you so much for hopping on with us again. We'll see you in a week or two. Of course, we got a lot of high school sports coming up, so we'll try and figure out what's going on here with the Kingsmen coming up the next couple of weeks. We do know after this break, Jacob will be hopping on. We're going to talk some baseball, some weird stuff happening, including a team losing a game where they threw a no-hitter. Weird stuff going on in baseball. That is all coming up next on the Kingsmen.
Good Health Nutrition Center in Centralia is your home base for nutrition. When you visit Good Health Nutrition Center, you'll find the largest selection of vitamins, supplements, and natural remedies. You may be surprised to also find a huge selection of healthy groceries such as gluten-free products, environmentally friendly products, organic fruits and vegetables, and items for specific diets like the diabetic diet. Good Health Nutrition Center, powering students and athletes from the inside out. Good Health Nutrition Center on Harrison in Centralia.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen. Jacob hopping on with us to talk first some baseball. It's been a weird season. There's been some fun things going on, but also some bizarre things, some sleeper teams that have kind of shocked. I think the baseball world kind of announced that they're legit World Series contenders. It isn't just a foregone conclusion. It's going to be the Dodgers against whoever from the American League. There's some very, very good teams. We want to start, though, by talking about one of the weirdest things that have happened in a baseball in a long, long time. That came in the Cincinnati Reds game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, where Hunter Green and the bullpen threw a combined no-hitter against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but it was the Pirates winning the ball game 1-0. And Jacob, I mean, this just does not happen every single day. I mean, first earlier this season, we saw the bases loaded intentional walk. Now teams are losing no hitters. It's just been a weird year, but man, it's got to sting as a pitcher to go out there and absolutely dominate and still get the loss.
Yeah, sting as a pitcher and sting as fans. I mean, if you are a baseball fan, you love no hitters, you love pitching matchups. If you're a non-baseball fan or even just a moderate, let's say, you like the offense. And so with the way that fan base already is feeling about that team, to have a slow, almost no offense game still be a loss, that strategy all went for naught. And that really, really hurts.
Yeah, the Reds are moving at a glacial pace right now. They, I think, have 9 wins. They had 3 wins in the entire first month before finally starting to rack some up. But I feel bad for that.
Slowly.
Exactly. I feel bad for that fan base. They deserve so much better. I mean, the management isn't even really trying, really. And Hunter Green, I mean, this guy's a stud. This kid is a superstar in the making. I mean, he broke the record for most pitches in a game earlier this season, over 100 miles an hour against the Dodgers. I mean, he's got all the makings of an absolute superstar. Kind of gives me the Aroldis Chapman vibes. A lot of people were wondering if Chapman was going to be a starter when he came into the league. They obviously moved him to the bullpen. Green looks like he's going to be a starter his entire career. I mean, and for it to happen against the Pirates, who, no disrespect to the Pirates, but I mean, they're not an offensive juggernaut. I mean, their pitching isn't sensational either, and to just get shut down completely, you need 2 runs to win that game. It's weird to have a no-hitter where you even give up a run, but to just need 2 runs and not be able to do it. The Reds, I mean, it's Joey Votto, and you struggle to even name any more of these Reds players. It is just really, I think, a travesty to the game, what is going on in Cincinnati. I mean, similar to what's going on in Oakland, at least the A's are putting up more of a fight, but I hate seeing teams, and especially good fan bases, have to go through these tanking periods like the Reds are going through right now.
Yeah, 100% agree. And at least Oakland, everyone kind of understands what's going on in Oakland. The management is not wanting the team. They're wanting to move. We've kind of made our assumptions there about where that team is headed. Cincinnati, that's not the case. I don't understand what they're doing. They were so close to being a playoff contender, and then they just sold their pieces and didn't even really get anything in return to say, we're going through a quick rebuild, bear with us, and we'll try again in the next 3-4 years. With the history that city has in baseball and the fan base that have, over the course of that team's history, enjoyed pretty substantial success, it's just baffling to see the management take that loyalty and just turn it upside down.
Yeah. And yeah, with the A's, they are looking to move the team. There's no question about that. I hope that, I loved what you said about the Reds. They were close to the playoffs last year. They were in a wild card spot in September. And of course, you weren't going to be able to bring everyone back. Castellanos, he wanted out. He was gone. There's no question about that. But I mean, they still had, of course, Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez on the team. Jonathan India won Rookie of the Year. They had a very bright future for him. And then they had a pretty good starting rotation, and the bullpen wasn't bad either. They got rid of everything. I mean, they just blew it up for no reason. It feels like this is something that they've done multiple times over the years. I mean, you go back to when Brandon Phillips was in his prime with the Reds. I mean, even before that, I just don't understand what their logic is. It almost feels like if they don't win a World Series, they're like, okay, we got to start completely over. That's sometimes not the case. Sometimes you got to give these guys years to gel together. They're just not really giving them that time or the real effort to try and build this team.
And they're not building their farm system in lieu of that. I mean, they're not trading these guys that weren't quite working out and getting a couple of prospects that are hopefully going to turn out in the next half a decade or so. It seems like they're just getting pennies for these guys. I don't understand even the economical reasons for any of these trades.
And this was, I believe, the sixth time we've seen a no-hitter end in a loss for the team throwing the no-hitter.
Look it up. Yeah.
In the late 2000s. We remembered it was Jared Weaver against the Dodgers, and I believe it was in 2008 is when he threw that no-hitter. And of course, as Mariners fans, we don't have a lot of love for Jared Weaver dating back to the Kyle Seager incident.
I'm ready. Let's go. Fun note is that we did find out was the first no-hitter loss actually went the other way for the Reds. They ended up beating the Colt 45s way back in the 60s. So now they're the Astros, of course. I got to say, out of all of the retro jerseys, I hate the Astros, but those Colt 45s, those are nifty.
They're pretty clean. They're pretty clean. Yeah. And of course, the most infamous maybe no-hitter situation was when Pedro Martinez threw 9 innings of perfect baseball, and it was 0-0, and he lost a perfect game going into the 10th. That is just absolutely heartbreaking. We talked about Jared Weaver and the Angels, though. Let's hop into the Angels, a team that they have gotten the support from the front office. The front office has thrown pretty much everything at the wall to hope something sticks, get Mike Trout to the playoffs. And now, of course, you want to get Shohei there. Seems like they've finally got things figured out. The team's staying healthy for now. Things are looking pretty good. Noah Syndergaard's been good. I know he just had a bad outing in his last start, but everything else, I mean, it's clicking right along for the Angels. And despite the Astros amazing streak that they're on right now, the Angels, they're hanging tough with them. They definitely look like they're going to compete for that AL West title.
Yeah, they aren't as white hot as I thought they were looking last week, but they aren't cooling down by any means either. And what I like is it doesn't matter if you're looking at the guys you knew would impress like Trout or Ohtani. I mean, they're doing what they need to do, or even the guys that you hoped would impress like Syndergaard or Rendon, but guys you weren't even thinking about are leading the league in some cases, like Taylor Ward. I mean, talk about coming onto the scene and just impressing everybody. I know we talked about him last week, but this team, they're firing on all cylinders. And like both of us said at the beginning of the season, if their top guys can stay healthy, they're going to be in the mix. But especially with that slower start that Houston saw, I mean, they're doing all right now.
And of course, with the Mariners also struggling, that second place position is wide open. It looks like the Angels are for sure right now the second best team in that division at worst. But I mean, I think Anthony Rendon was a big signing for them last season. He didn't really stay healthy. He's won a World Series, though. I mean, he knows what it takes to win. He's always been productive. Jared Walsh exploded onto the scene last season as well. So they got a lot of guys who can go out there to hit. Jack Mayfield, I mean, that's the guy the Mariners gave up. He seems to have found his groove with the Angels. And then you got David Fletcher, who just puts the ball in play consistently. I mean, they got so many good pieces. This lineup top to bottom is pretty tough. If the rotation can stay healthy, they can keep doing what they're doing. This team's going to be very, very tricky to try and take out, especially when we get later in the season. Not a team you want to see in October.
Right. And we're not even taking into consideration, before the trade deadline, this is a team who has proven time and time again that if they're on the cusp or if they're feeling good about themselves, that management is willing to spend the money and be in win now mode. And so I'm thinking that the bullpen and the rotation are going to get some pretty good reinforcements along the way too.
I can't wait for this trade deadline. It is going to be fascinating. I just saw today that the Nationals potentially could move Juan Soto. Xander Bogaerts is going to be being shot by the Red Sox. Things are going to get absolutely wild, especially with some of those face of the franchise guys. So before this season started, Jacob, you and I did our predictions. We gave our thoughts on each division and awards. Looking back about a month and a half to 2 months into this season, you look at your predictions. Is there anything you're regretting a little bit or wish you could have changed? Teams you put a little bit too much hope for?
Yeah, there's a few. I know I was a little more conservative with the AL West than you were. I was feeling it might be the Mariners' year, but I figured the Astros would still be the team to beat. The Angels are not going to be in third place in that division. I can tell you right now. And so, but also just the awards. The awards were what stuck out to me the most. I'm telling you right now, Scott is not winning Manager of the Year. There, not only are the wins just not there, but there have been some personnel decisions that ultimately led to a loss of a game, and so it's hard to say. It's only a month and a half in, but especially with how this season is going so far, I'm gonna retract our home team hero winning Manager of the Year. As far as postseason spots go, I'm feeling pretty good. I had the Mets and the Blue Jays in the World Series, and no disappointments there so far. Those teams are off to a great start, even with some speed bumps getting in their way. But I'm thinking as the season goes on and as October nears, they're going to be even stronger.
For me, I agree. Obviously, the Mariners, I don't think are winning the AL West. I think they might be in for another year without the playoffs. I still have hope that they can make a push here soon for the wild card. I also, I had Zach Wheeler winning the Cy Young and Joe Girardi winning Manager of the Year. And I just rode the Phillies a lot. I look like a fool right now because the Phillies, they are not a team that looks like they can go win a very competitive NL East. I think you hit a home run with the Mets. They look just sensational. Also, my World Series prediction was the White Sox over the Dodgers. Now, I'm not giving up on that. White Sox, they've been beat up. Jose Abreu has struggled to hit. I think they're still going to figure things out. They're still in a good spot in that division. They're playing.
Pitching is still strong.
Exactly. They're playing to just get to October and then take it one series at a time. And if that rotation's healthy in October, that bullpen is able to find their groove once again. Not a team you're going to want to face, not a lineup you're going to want to face. So I'm still holding out hopes for the White Sox. Of course, the Dodgers look ridiculous. I wish I would have been a little bit higher on the Yankees looking at how they're playing right now. I had them second in that division. I also had the Red Sox over the Rays. I don't think that's going to happen. The Red Sox have serious issues, but the Phillies are the one that I really look Back on and wish that I wouldn't have put all my eggs in that basket. They just are really struggling. Bryce Harper not being healthy, this rotation being banged up with injuries, and the lineup isn't nearly as good as they were hoping it would be. So in that division with the Mets and even the Braves playing well, Marlins, they've got a pretty good rotation. I just don't think the Phillies have what it takes. So that is my biggest regret there for our preseason predictions.
Yeah. At least your NL Cy Young pick has thrown a game. So that props to you for not picking a dead horse.
Yes. You look like you might be in a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah.
Now we go back to, do you remember we did a mock draft for the NFL draft and we did a little bit of a competition?
Yep.
I got the win in that competition. We did keep scores for that, and I was able to beat out Jacob pretty close. You finished with 15. I finished with 22. Remember, you got a certain amount of points if you got it spot on, and then 1 if you just got the position right. So I ended up winning, which gives me the opportunity for the first soapbox moment on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast, and I'm going to talk about baseball. This is not something I'm sure Jacob anticipated me talking about. I bet you it's something that hasn't even really crossed his mind, but it's about the new scheduling that the MLB is going to go with starting next season.
Okay.
Each team's going to play everyone at least once throughout the season. I think that is an awful idea. I think that you had some unique matchups you only got to see once every few years or in the World Series. Now you're going to see that World Series matchup during the regular season. That matchup's not going to feel as special anymore. You had those teams that you just didn't get to see, and that was what made them the attraction when they did come to town. having you play every single team every single year, all of a sudden it's going to start feeling stale. Give it 5 years or so. It's going to be like, okay, we've seen these guys. These guys, we play them every year. I think you shouldn't have gone away. I love the changing what division you play interleague style each year. And I love going to every team in the American League and having every team in the American League come to Seattle. I thought that's what made baseball special, is that those matchups were so rare. Those teams coming to town are so rare. I got to watch the Phillies play in Seattle for the first time ever this season. Unfortunately, we got smoked, but I'm going to miss those special matchups. Things just aren't going to quite feel the same anymore when it comes to playing those interleague series. And of course, when it comes to the World Series, you already seen those teams play earlier in the season. So that matchup doesn't feel quite as special, obviously still for the championship. So there's still a lot riding on that one. I want the MLB to, I hope they reconsider this, take a look back maybe in a few years and say, now let's go back to the old way and keep those matchups fresh, keep those special matchups unique,
That's fair.
So that's
I know
gonna be
soapboxes I can't comment on whether I agree or not. So that's what you're saying. And we'll leave it at that.
Yep. It's gonna be interesting. I'm sure, Jacob, you can't wait to get your first moment in the sun here. Who knows when that can be? It could be here in just a few weeks. We'll have to check out how things are doing. I also wanted to introduce another segment we're going to start doing about baseball in the coming weeks. I talked about it with Jacob. We're going to start doing a Mount Rushmore for every team. I think that'll be fun to kind of look at other teams, look at their history. Everyone has got a Mount Rushmore for their team. But I think it'll be interesting to take a look at it around the league, the history of each team, and see who are the 4 guys who really define that franchise.
I like it. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I think that we'll have a lot of opportunity to interact with more of the socials when it comes to that little segment. And so, yeah, really looking forward to that. I know we've talked about the Mariners greats of all times, all over the place. But it'll be nice to look at other teams and really see where the differences lie. I know, especially we don't have that much of an age difference, but I know, especially when it comes to 90s baseball, there just wasn't as much. There's a little bit of a difference between who we think of when we think of baseball in that time period. And I'm sure that as we go into even older generations, it's even more extreme. So yeah, I think that it'll be really fun to go over that and see if we're kind of on the same page or if those differences really start to shine through.
I'll give you guys a little bit of a spoiler on the first team that we are going to talk about. It is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. That'll be the first one we look at next week, kind of a newer team, but a lot of good players that you might not even expect to see their names pop up on a list like this for all-time greats. So that is going to be a lot of fun. That's coming up next week. We do have another segment, though, that'll be coming up after this on the commercial break. We're going to go talk about football, the NFL. We got top 5 corners headed into the 2022 season. Corners starting to get paid. We'll talk about who deserves to get paid coming up next year on the Kingsmen.
There are many ways for businesses to expand their customer base, but one of the tried and true ways of increasing customer loyalty and recognizing employees is to put your name and logo on promotional and motivational items. You can find a wide selection at Alderson's Awards West Printwares in Centralia. Shirts, hats, coats, mugs, pens, and more, all with high-quality screen printing or embroidery done on site. For a full catalog of items at great prices, go to aldersons.net, and remember, you will get maximum impact at Awards West Printwares. Since 1978, Rogers Key, Card & Strophe has offered their clients excellent representation in all facets of legal areas as a general practice law firm. They're serving Thurston, Lewis, Mason, Pierce, and Grace Harbor counties. Our team of professionals' focus is on personal injury, family law, criminal defense and DUIs, estate planning, corporate, business, and real estate law. You can find them at budbaylaw.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen. It's time to talk some football. Of course, we've been going through positions, giving our rankings. Now we're going to head to the defensive side. Of course, big cornerback news this week. Jair Alexander signing an extension with the Green Bay Packers. I love that for many, many reasons. We probably will talk about him later on in this episode. Let's go ahead. Top 5 corners. Corner is a tough position to play right now, especially with them really cutting down on the physicality. So these guys really have to play really, really good, have to be quick, have to be able to be shifty, change directions very quickly. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out this season. But top 5 corners, Jacob, why don't you kick things off? Your number 5.
Number 5, I got Tre'Davious White. Now, I know he is coming off of just one of the worst ACL tears I've ever seen. I mean, he went beyond the ACL, contact, tore meniscus. Not pretty. And so I know he's going to miss the first part of the season. I'm hoping it's only the first 3-ish weeks. I've been doing a lot of recon on him because Bills D, I put a lot of stock into them over our segments and into fantasy. So I think even if he is back in schedule, Bills are without a doubt still the best defense in the league. His numbers speak for themselves. He's got the 4th best passer rating allowed by corners since 2018. Just his speed and his coverage skill, even after an injury like that, I don't see it changing. And so I think even with missing the first part of the year, he's going to keep up with the rest of the guys stats wise.
At number 5, I've got Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. He was coming off a couple years ago. He was just so good at forcing turnovers, picking the ball off. I mean, the one thing I am concerned about is it seems like he wants out of Miami still. I question the commitment. He does a good job of saying, I'm here when I'm here. I am going to give it all 110%. He looked like he did that last season. I'm wondering if the way they play this season might make him look like, you know what, let's work on a contract to keep me here. Cause I think the Dolphins are going to be a pretty solid club this year, but I think he's kind of the face of that defense. I mean, the Dolphins, they've had a good defense for a few years now, but it all starts and ends with Xavier Howard. When he's able to force turnovers, get this offense possession in a short field to work with, it's just very, very beneficial to the Dolphins with a young offense to not have to worry about marching 80 yards down the field. You know what? Go ahead and go 50 or 60 and see if you can put up points on those drives. Interceptions are mightily important. Of course, he plays in a division with some young quarterbacks. Mac Jones, they kind of don't throw the ball a ton, but I mean, with Zach Wilson, he's able to get those interceptions as well. I think he's really going to play a crucial role in seeing if the Dolphins can get over that hump and get to the playoffs here in 2022.
Yeah, I think Howard is one of the best ball hawks in the game. Corners, it's hard to judge with interceptions because if you get a bunch of interceptions, what do? They stop throwing to you. And that to me is the mark of a great corner. And so, yeah, Howard, he was one of my honorable mentions I was telling you beforehand. Just one of the best interception forcers in the game right now. I'm curious to see as other teams start to develop that scouting report more and either avoid him or figure out his tendencies, how that's going to play out over the next year or so. But I mean, he went, he lead the league with 10 2 years ago, and he still got 5 the year after that. So you can't sneeze at that by any means. I was in the mix between him and White for number 5.
And those numbers did drop down. You talked about it. When you're getting interceptions like he was getting, guys stop throwing the ball at you. So I think that number is going to continue to drop. I want to hop on my number 4 real quick before you share yours, because I have Tre'Davious White from Buffalo as my number 4. Again, coming off that ACL injury, very scary. Everything you said was spot on. He's a very important role, or a very important piece of this defense. Kind of this secondary for Buffalo is scary with Poyer and Hyde at safety. And then if you add him in, and when it comes to that injury, he's obviously not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. The Bills don't need him to be ready, though. That team's going to get to the playoffs. That's what they're focused on. They want to be as healthy as possible going into January. I don't think they're going to rush him to get back, because I think this defense is going to be just fine without him. So again, I think when we do see him, it'll be as close to 100% as he can possibly be, which I think is going to be very good news for the Bills heading into the playoffs. And I think if they have him, I think that game with the Chiefs, that it looks very, very different in the AFC divisional round.
Agreed. Plus, not to mention, Bill snagged one of the best cornerbacks in the draft to kind of bolster them either until he comes back, or, I mean, while he comes back. You can't scoff at having a great corner on both sides of the field. So,
All right, you're number 4.
Gilmore. I figured this was the one you probably left off your list, and I know he took a big step down when he went to Carolina. In his defense, he was still nursing that quad injury. He only started 3 games. Now, he played in more games, but he was a starter for 3 games last year and still got decent numbers. He got 3 interceptions. He still got to the Pro Bowl. Now that he's healing up and he's in a much more capable defense, I'm expecting great things.
Yeah, you're right. Gilmore I didn't have in my top 5. He's coming off an injury, but he took a pretty big step back last season. That worries me quite a bit. Again, I don't think the Panthers have nearly as good of a defense as the Patriots obviously had when he was the defensive player of the year, or the Colts. Yeah, that's right. But I want to see which is the real him, because that Bill Belichick defense, they always seem to produce a very, very good corner who doesn't always look the same once they leave New England. So again, I want to see what the real Stephon Gilmore is. And I think you're going to see that in 2022. I think he can be pretty freaking good. I just need to actually see it outside of that Patriots system before I'm able to vault him into my top 5. Now, before we started filming, you said you think that we probably have the same top 3, just in different orders. So on the podium, Jacob, who do you have sitting at number 3?
You were just talking about players leaving Bill Belichick's defense. I'm going with J.C. Jackson for number 3. I already mentioned that White had the 4th best passer rating since 2018. JC has number 1. His passer rating allowed since 2018 is 50.1. I mean, just disgusting numbers. Even without playing a game, I've heard nothing but phenomenal things since he's come into, I almost said San Diego, LA. Just a huge impact on his teammates already before the season even started. Now, this kid is entering his 5th year, already has the mindset of a vet. And I give some of that credit to Belichick. Chargers needed his help in their secondary, and they went out and got him. Still one of the biggest free agent moves of the offseason.
Yeah, I actually don't have J.C. Jackson in my top 5.
Okay.
See prior reasons, Stephon Gilmore. I have at number 3. I think this is going to be the guy you don't have in your top 5. I have Marshawn Lattimore from New Orleans. He's been towards the top of the league since he came into the league. He is very physical. He's obviously very brash. He's going to let you know that he's shutting you down. But I mean, he just completely takes away your number 1 weapon. When you play against New Orleans, you know you're going to have those other guys step up. I watched it when they played the Packers week 1 last year and just decimated them. Devontae Adams was completely taken out of the picture. He did the same against the Bucs, whether it's Evans or Godwin that he's matched up with. He is just completely taken them away. He neutralizes your top guy. He's going to test your depth. You're going to have your number 2, number 3 guys step up. And so far, guys really struggled to do that against Lattimore. He is very smart. His football IQ is very, very high. He knows how to defend guys without getting called for fouls. I mean, he's just exactly what you want for a number 1 corner. And I think Marshawn Lattimore is kind of sneaky under the radar for being one of, if not the best corner in this league.
Interesting. I like it. I wouldn't put him outside of the top 10 any year, but I like my list too. So we'll see how it plays out this year.
Well, let's keep that list going. Jacob, who's number 2?
Got Jair. I mean, number 2. Honestly, if you're disagreeing with me, I'm kind of worried about you, because I think we both know who number 1 really is. But we'll see how it plays out. He got that record contract extension even after missing 3/4 of the year. His team knows how vital he is to their defense. If you have him in your secondary, without any other help, you automatically have a premier secondary. So you can't overstate enough how valuable that is. I also love his flexibility. This is a guy that he can play anywhere, line up against anyone. Now, I know that the Packers have said we're going to move him around and it might be game to game. Not a lot of quarterbacks can line up on the outside in the slot under safety. It just, however they want to play that defense, he gives them the ability to do so.
Well, at number 2, I also have a corner whose name starts with a J. I have Jair Alexander at number 2.
Okay, good.
I got him sitting at 2. I think he's got an argument for one, but coming off that shoulder injury, again, I want to see how he bounces back. I love everything you said, that you can line him up on the outside, either side. You can line it up in the slot. He's just so dominant, and it's Jair Island. I mean, it really is right now. We talked about Revis Island back in the day. Now it's Jair Island. I mean, he's going to take away your guy. He doesn't have the interception numbers that you would like, but it's because nobody throws at him, because if you throw it over there, he's probably going to pick it off. I mean, he picked off Tom Brady twice in that NFC championship. He's very physical, but he's also very quick with the hips as well. He can change direction very nicely. That Packers secondary is honestly going to be scary. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about them. You got Jair Alexander. You got Rasul Douglas, who is just an interception machine after coming over. You got Eric Stokes, who is sensational as a rookie. And then you got Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage at safety. Savage is the weak spot in that team on defense. He can come away with some big plays constantly. He is very explosive. This secondary is going to be really, really good once again this year. But yeah, Jair Alexander, I mean, he's going to eventually, I think, take over number 1 from Jalen Ramsey. But as of right now, I mean, I kind of just spoiled it. Number 1, both of us are going to have Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, you have to. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yes.
Yeah. If you want a guy who can absolutely shut down an entire half of the field, you look no further than Ramsey. He gets the interceptions when the quarterbacks are silly enough to throw to his side of the field. He causes fumbles. He chases guys down from the other side of the field when his teammates kind of were slacking a little bit. He ends otherwise scoring plays. He just does it all. I think anyone who said, I want to see him against the best in the league, shut up after the Super Bowl. Because there were some good plays against him. I remember one where before the play, it looked like Chase was going into motion, and then he just cut up the field and burnt him. That's going to happen. But he stayed toe-to-toe with Chase that entire game. For the most part, the only time they were able to throw to the weapons they wanted to was because either A, they motioned him completely to the other side of the field so that he didn't have to deal with him, or B, they almost ripped his face mask off. Those were the big plays against him. And so I think it really shut up a lot of the naysayers. He's the best. End of story.
Yeah, people don't like his arrogant attitude, but when you're the best, you're allowed to let people know that you're the best. I mean, Here's the thing that I look at. I mean, when you game plan for an NFL game, you're normally game planning for a receiver, a running back, even sometimes a defensive lineman. Teams have to game plan for Jalen Ramsey. How are we going to get him off his spot? How are we going to move him around, throw him off a little bit? I remember, again, I talk about the Packers a lot on this show. It's going to happen because I watched their games multiple times. In the NFC divisional round in 2020, they ran a play where they motioned Adams back and forth, just have Jalen Ramsey running back and forth, and he just could not get through the traffic on defense. And that's how Green Bay attacked him. They were moving him all around. They were going to make someone else help on Devontae Adams, or they were just going to have Jalen Ramsey get in his own way. But yeah, I mean, there's no question he's the best. He's going to shut you down, and he's going to let you know about it. He will get called for some penalties because he's not going to shy away from being physical. I mean, he's going to get right in your face. Absolutely. Yeah. You're going to get beat sometimes as a corner. You're never going to have 100% success no matter who you're going up against. Jalen Ramsey, he's the best. He's still the best. He's probably going to be the best this season. Good luck figuring out how to get your guys open on him. You're going to have to actually sit down, draw up some unique plays just to kind of throw him off a little bit. I mean, the guy's special.
Out of all of the trades that the Rams initiated to build that Super Bowl team, that had one of the biggest price tags, and it was still one of the best deals that they made. I mean, you could throw away every single pick for the next 5 years. They almost did. And you'd be happy with that team that they built. And I know they lost some of those guys, but that was without a doubt Super Bowl caliber team from the get-go. I mean, you look at them and it looked like a mutt team.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to 2 Super Bowls, you won one. No fan's going to be upset with spending that much when you're having that kind of success. So there you go. There's our top 5 at corners headed into the 2022 season. And there goes episode number 6 of the Kingsmen. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Again, drop a like, drop a share, drop a comment if you want to see us talk about something. We are more than willing to have a fan segment where we talk about the questions you guys want us to actually chat about. Next week, we will talk about the Mount Rushmore of the Tampa Bay Rays, plus some other exciting things that are going to be happening in the baseball world this week, some things that we don't even know about yet that are going to happen in the next coming days. And then we are going to talk about the NFL schedule that was released. We're going to break down some matchups that we are excited to watch in 2022. That'll be coming up next week here on the Kingsmen.